Kitchen, call. We have 150 resos on the books tonight, including a 20 top. Factoring on all of our walk-ins, we're probably looking at about 300 covers tonight. So make sure your Mies is super tight and speak up if you start running low on something so we don't have to 86 it. If you find yourself in the weeds, don't be a hero. Ask for hands. Now, I want to have a really good service tonight, so don't be a fucking shoemaker and let's put out some real soigné shit. Did you get all that? If you've never worked in a restaurant, it can sound like we're speaking our own language, and quite frankly, we are. Any profession that's been around for a while ends up developing its own lingo, and restaurants have been around for so long, it goes especially true for us. So today, we're just going to look at some of the most commonly used restaurant slang, as well as a few lesser known ones, and maybe you too can start talking like you work in a kitchen. Starting off, we have some basic ones that you probably already heard. Directional calls. Most commonly, behind. Also, corner, but lesser known, on your left, on your right, above, below. Restaurants are incredibly busy with a lot of moving parts. And if you're not constantly aware of what's going on around you, you can run into each other, things can get spilled, somebody's going to get hurt. So we constantly are just telling each other where we're at. In the same vein as directional calls, we've got safety calls. Hot, sharp, sometimes bulky. If I'm carrying a hot pan, you got to know what's going on. If I'm carrying a knife, you definitely got to know what's going on. So oftentimes you'll hear directional and safety calls combined, such as hot behind or corner sharp, things like that. Pretty simple. And of course, heard. Constant communication is happening in the kitchen, and we have to know that you heard what we said. So it's simple as that. I tell you something, you say heard. You tell me something, I say heard. Pretty easy. Now this one is a little less known. It's only been used at one of the restaurants I've been at, but I know that a lot of other restaurants do use it, and that's call. Call essentially means that what I have to say is important. So if I'm trying to get somebody's attention, that's what I'll say. So I'll say something like, chef, call, and the chef will hear that. They'll hear call, and they'll say, that's important, and then they'll call back to me, and I'll let them know what's going on. Now, service. Service is lunchtime, dinner time. For breakfast spots, breakfast time. It's the period of time in which you serve that particular menu. So, for example, dinner service starts at 5 and it goes till close. Lunch service starts at noon and usually goes till like 2, 3 o'clock, and then there's a period in between where there's not really much going on and it's not counted as service, but the restaurant might still be open, or if you're lucky, the restaurant closes so you can prep. Reso. This one's super easy. It's reservation. We just shorten it to reso. There's really not much to expand on there. On the books, that's just the log of reservations. You've got reservations on the books, or resos on the books. So the number of reservations you have, 150 reservations, say, 150 on the books. Cover. Now this one's interesting. Cover essentially is how many people eat in the restaurant that day. So if you feed 250 people that day, you did 250 covers. So I've been curious for a long time as to where cover comes from, and there's a couple of theories, but the most prevailing, probably most honest, truest theory comes from the French word couvert, which is basically the table set. So setting the silverware and everything down on the table in French dining, that's the couvert. So the cover is how many covers you need to set the table. How many couverts? The cat is, hey. And then top. So top is... You don't let me hold you. So top is how many people at a table. So 5 top is a party of 5, basically. Now a top, that again was something that was hard to get. Okay. So a top, again, it was something hard for me to find the definition of, but the best thing I could find was a cloche. Now a cloche is when you look at the old fancy fine dining stuff, the lid that goes over the plate, that's called a cloche. Also, kind of a theory as to where it comes from cover, because it covers the plate. But cloche is the top, and it's how many tops you're going to need for that particular table. A walk-in. A walk-in is just somebody who wants to eat and didn't make a reservation. They just walked into the restaurant. Easy. All day. Now, a lot of places use all day. You've probably heard this one, such as, I need 10 fries all day. That means you need 10 orders of fries. All day is just the total order of a particular item that you need to drop. On the fly or flying. Sometimes a server forgets to ring something in. Sometimes you mess up and you need to remake something, or somebody needs to remake something somewhere. So you need it quickly. That's on the fly. So say the server, and I'm sorry to be shitting on your servers, but hey, that's what we do when we're cooks. A server drops a pizza on the way out to the table. You need to remake that pizza. You need it on the fly. 86. Everybody knows 86. 86 means you're out of something. Or it can also mean you got thrown out of a bar because you got too drunk and started whipping your dick out on the table. There are so many theories for 86 that I could make a whole video just on that. From it being a club to 86 meaning 8 by 6, the length of a grave that needs to be dug, to nix it turned into 86. There's a ton of theories, and there doesn't seem to really be one that is showing up more than the others. So I don't know. We just say 86 when we're out of something. 86 mahi. Cowboy cook. Cowboy cook is another one that not a ton of people know, but it's basically a cook that cuts corners. A cook that cuts corners, it's not always necessarily a bad cook. It's just a cook that knows how to get the food out and get it plated, get it to the table. Some of the best cooks I've ever worked with have been cowboy cooks, but also some of the worst cooks I've been with have been cowboy cooks. So it really just depends on how much they care. But essentially a cowboy cook is just somebody who can get the shit done really fast. Like for example, I watched the guy, one of the pilots on the range was out. So instead of going over and grabbing the lighter, he just grabbed his pan spray real quick, sprayed the fire, and carried the flame over to the other pilot light. Absolutely insane behavior, and I don't recommend anybody do that ever. It was kind of cool to see though. That's some cowboy cook shit. Soigner. Now, soigner, I've actually never worked in a place that uses soigner, but I have heard it used, especially in finer dining establishments. Reading a couple books from former chefs or current chefs even, and they use the term soigner. Soigner essentially just means, I think the French term is elegant, something of that nature. I didn't write it down. It's here in post. But basically, if you put out a really nice, beautiful dish, that's soigner. That's a soigner plate, a soigner dish. Dying or dead. If the food's not getting out to the table right away, it's dying. It's getting cold, or if it's like a salad or it's ice cream, it's warming up, it's melting, or the lettuce is wilting, it's dying. If it gets to that point where you can't serve it, it's dead. This is usually due to a lack of a food runner, which is why sometimes you'll hear cooks yell stuff like, I've got food dying in the window, I need a runner. In the weeds, or railed out sometimes. When you get really busy, and you're just barely hanging on by a thread and you're just running through tickets like a chicken with your head cut off, and you're just trying to get it done, you're in the weeds. It's also called railed out because what you hang your tickets on in front of you, that's called the rail, the ticket rail. So sometimes you're getting railed out or just railed. Mise en place, or sometimes just shortened to mise. Mise en place is super important. Mise en place is French for everything in its place. Your mise en place, or your mise, is just everything you need for your station to be set up. So like earlier when I said your mise needs to be super tight, that means you need to have everything set, ready, good to go. You have to have enough for the night so we don't have to prep any, or we don't have to 86 it. Your mise en place is so important. And it's not just ingredients, it's also your utensils you need. Tongs, knives, rubber spats, anything like that. Towels. Don't forget your mise en place. Fire, or refire. This is pretty simple. To fire a dish means to start it, to put the steak down on the grill, or drop your pasta into the water. Anything like that, that's firing a dish. If it needs to be remade, it's a refire. Pretty cut and dry, honestly. Hands. I have hands, or I need hands. Hands is help. If you're getting weeded out on your station and you need some help, a lot of times you'll hear somebody yell, I need hands. Conversely, if your station isn't really doing much right now, but another station is, you can yell over to them, I have hands, and run over to help them. It's just a way to let them know that you need help or you're giving help. Shoemaker. Now, shoemaker isn't one that I hear super often, but it is a term that I like. The first time I heard it was in Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain. I think he said something to the effect of, where are my fucking fries, you shoemaker? The shoemaker is essentially somebody who can't cook or shouldn't be cooking. They shouldn't be in the kitchen. I've looked into a lot of stuff for him. The original thing that I read was something as kind of innocuous as they can't cook, they should be making shoes. And I've reached into that a little bit deeper, and I found a better meaning. I've heard it's a shoe, like if they cook a piece of meat and it's so leathery it's like a shoe, that seems feasible, but the most possible actually is the term cobbler, which is somebody who repairs shoes, so as to say it was cobbled together. It's just, the dish was just thrown together, it looks like shit, it's not good. So the dish was cobbled together, cobbled, cobbler, shoemaker. Seems like some leaps, but that is also the most legitimate theory that I've read, and I think it's a fun one, and I honestly want to start using it more. So there it is. That's how you talk like you work in a restaurant. If you've got a particular term that you really like that I missed, or just your favorite one that I mentioned, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, hit those buttons down below. Tell YouTube you like me. And of course, shout out to all my Patreon homies helping me pay my bills every month. If you want some more exclusive content from me and my show Leftovers, you can subscribe to my Patreon as well. Or if you just want to chat with me about food or knives or anything really, you can join my Discord server, which link down below for that as well. Otherwise, I think that about does it. And love y'all. See you soon.